Welcome back to The Explainer. So, if you're feeling that heavy, crushing weight of modern parenting pressure right now, honestly, just take a deep breath because today's Explainer, it's entirely about doing less. We're going to map out 7 science-backed micro habits that actually relieve that pressure. We are breaking down some truly fascinating research to show you how stepping back rather than constantly leaning in might be exactly what your child is actually hoping for. All right, let's just get right into it.
You know, if you read typical parenting advice, it focuses so heavily on what babies need, right? Food, sleep, safety, constant stimulation. And honestly, just trying to keep up with all those needs, it's exhausting. But there's a really profound difference between what babies need just to survive and what they truly love. Today, I want us to consider a set of completely counterintuitive behaviors. We're not talking about loud, flashy, or, super expensive toys. We're talking about quiet, subtle shifts in how you interact that create a much deeper, far more lasting connection.
Okay, let's dive into this because the statistic here is just staggering. Studies actually suggest that only about 2% of parents consistently practice all 7 of the daily habits we're about to cover. 2%. And it's not because parents are doing a bad job, no way. It's simply because nobody ever told them these things even mattered. So this creates a massive opportunity for you. By the end of this explainer, you're going to have the exact tools you need to confidently step right into that 2%.
Act 1. Language over entertain.
So we are tackling the myth of constant entertainment first. The honest truth is, the absolute best way to entertain a baby, it doesn't require a screen, it doesn't need a musical toy or some crazy flashing light. It literally just requires the sound of your voice during the absolute most boring parts of your day. A brilliant 2017 study from Stanford University uncovered something pretty amazing. They found that the sheer quantity of words a baby hears in their first year directly impacts their vocabulary, their cognitive development, and get this, even their IQ by age 3. But here is the real kicker. The actual content of the words, it didn't matter nearly as much as the engagement itself. Babies who heard their parents narrate completely ordinary, incredibly boring tasks, think changing a diaper or wiping a face, they actually showed the highest benefits. Why? Well, because those words came wrapped in pure parental attention. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how to do it. You definitely don't need to be Shakespeare here. Take a standard phrase, like, look at that big dog. I mean, it's fine, right? But compare that to a Pathways recommended narrated phrase like, look at that big dog. See the difference? Just by emphasizing those new words, you're actually helping your baby hear and connect those words to their daily routine. I know it kind of feels silly like you're just talking to yourself, but I promise you, to your baby, it is absolute magic. Pathways.org actually provides some phenomenal, super actionable tips for narrating your day. First off, describe with detail. So instead of just saying, I'm washing the dish, try saying, I am washing the blue dish. Second, use what they call parallel talk. Basically, tell the baby what they are experiencing sensory-wise, like, wow, the water is wet and warm. Third, go on adventures. You can narrate finding the yellow bananas at the grocery store. It's like a grand quest for them. Also, keep your sentences short and sweet. And finally, just have fun making silly sounds. Throw in some animal noises. If you're having fun with it, your baby is absolutely going to have fun too.
Let's move to how this builds, because it perfectly sets up our next habit. When your baby coos or cries, your immediate instinct is probably to just jump in and respond instantly. But a 2019 study on serve and return interactions found that parents who waited just a beat, literally a 2 to 3 second pause before responding, saw incredible results. That tiny little gap, that brief pause, is actual proof to your baby that you are listening to them rather than just reflexively reacting to noise. And that brief little pause builds an absolutely crucial developmental milestone known as communicative persistence. Let's define what this actually is. It is a baby's learned trust that their signals will be heard and received. They are learning that their voice actually matters. They learn that they can send a message and someone out there is genuinely, warmly thinking about what they said before jumping right in.
Act 2. The gift of space. Okay. Let's look at probably the hardest instinct for any parent to break, and that is the overwhelming urge to constantly stimulate, entertain, and immediately rescue a fussy baby. Developmental psychologist Magda Gerber spent her entire career studying what babies actually need versus what we just assume they need. And her research? It proves that placing a baby in a safe, completely unstimulating space actually allows them to generate their own engagement. Think about it. When they aren't being constantly entertained by dangling toys or loud music, they start to notice their own hands. They feel the texture of their blanket.
Magda Gerber famously noted that inner life begins in boredom. They develop independent play simply because we gave them the gift of space to do nothing. Now, what's really interesting about this is a 2018 study in the journal Infancy. It revealed a pretty stark contrast in outcomes when babies experience a mild struggle. Something like trying to reach a toy or trying to roll over. Parents who intervened immediately, they essentially stole the experience of the baby figuring it out for themselves. But parents who delayed their intervention, they raised babies with significantly higher persistence, way better problem-solving abilities, and a much greater frustration tolerance by age 2. So how do we actually put that into practice in the real world? Well, we use the 30-second rule. When your baby is working on something hard, step 1, literally sit on your hands if you have to. I'm serious. Step 2, project calm confidence with your face, not anxiety. Show them you believe in them. And step 3, just breathe and wait at least 30 seconds before you step in to help. Often, that is all the time they need to solve it themselves. And when they do, you are going to see a very specific look on their face. It's pure pride. And you didn't just hand that to them. They earned it, simply because you got out of the way.
Act 3, the neuroscience of repetition.
Now let's shift gears to a reality every single parent knows way too well. The sheer mind-numbing exhaustion of reading the exact same book or singing the exact same song for the literally 100th time today. But we really need to reframe this. It isn't just repetition. It is absolutely vital brain-building work. You see, babies love repetition in a way us adults just cannot comprehend. As a 2011 University of Sussex study highlights, every single time you repeat that same silly peekaboo game, your baby's brain is rapidly strengthening neural pathways. Babies exposed to repetition show much faster language acquisition and better memory. But more importantly, they permanently encode feelings of safety and delight. Why? Because they get to feel the sheer joy of predicting exactly what comes next. So you might be losing your mind, but your baby? They are neurologically thriving.
Act 4, flawed but authentic. We've reached what is arguably the emotional climax of our explainer today. Society puts an immense, almost suffocating amount of pressure on parents to always put on this happy, perfectly positive face for their baby. You know the drill. Never be frustrated, never show you're tired. But actually, scratch that, this is completely counterproductive. A fascinating 2015 study on emotional authenticity found that babies as young as 4 months old can actually detect the difference between a genuine emotion and a performed fake emotion. Your face is literally your baby's very first textbook for emotions. If you're constantly performing this exaggerated positivity when you're actually exhausted or frustrated, your baby fails to learn what real emotional truth looks like, and because of that, they actually struggle to learn how to regulate themselves.
So if you ever feel like you are just constantly messing up, you need to hear about developmental scientist Ed Tronick's famous research on rupture and repair. It turns out that even the absolute best, most perfectly attuned parents out there, they are only in sync with their babies 30% of the time. Just let that sink in for a second. 30%. That means 70% of the time, there are misattunements. You read the signal wrong, you got distracted by your phone, you got frustrated. Misattunements happen constantly, to everyone.
So, the absolutely crucial point here is that babies do not need the quote-unquote perfect parent who never makes a mistake and never acknowledges a misstep. What they actually need is the repairing parent. Babies whose parents acknowledge their mistakes, the ones who say, "Oh man, I got that wrong, I am so sorry, let me try again," those babies develop much stronger attachment and resilience. They are learning the most valuable human skill of all, that things can go wrong, relationships can fray, but we always have the power to make them right again. All of this really distills down to this beautiful core ethos. Talking through the mundane, boring chores, allowing your baby to just be bored, stepping back to let them struggle for a minute, repeating that same song for the millionth time, and repairing your mistakes. These aren't just stressful new tasks to add to your endless to-do list. They are ways of being with your baby that honor who they actually are. They are a person to be known, not some sort of project to be optimized.
So, I want to leave you with this final thought. How can you embrace imperfection and actively do less today? Put the toys away, let the silence sit for a bit, show your real face, and confidently step into that 2% of parents who know the real secret, that doing less is actually how you connect more. If this look at the science sparked your curiosity, be sure to explore more of our explainers. Until next time, keep learning and keep focusing on what truly matters.